I'm always thinking about Funnelytics in that kind of mindset. How can we make digital marketing and data intuitive, easy, right? Simple. Like we have a drag and drop canvas. So you drag your shapes and it's intuitive. Oh, this page goes to this page. That's my mindset.
Welcome to the My Future Business Show, where we get you in front of your best audience and keep you there. Not only are we interviewing the biggest names in business to help you become even more successful, we're inviting you to book your spot on the show to help you grow your business. So at the end of the call, make sure you fill in the interview application form at myfuturebusiness.com/interviews. Hi, and welcome back to the My Future Business Show. My name's Rick Nuske. I always say this, but today's especially true because I say that we have some amazing guests on the show, but today I'm on the line with MIKAEL DIA. How are you, MIKAEL?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. I often say I have 2 feet and a heartbeat, so I can't complain too much.
There you go. Exactly. As long as you've got 2 feet and a heartbeat, you're good to go.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, for everybody who doesn't know too much about MIKAEL, he is a wonderful individual. He's very talented. He is an expert digital marketer. He is the owner and founder of 3 very successful businesses that he's taken to 7 figures, including IIFYM, which stands for If It Fits Your Macros, White Coat Digital, and of course Funnelytics, which we're going to take a bit of a deep dive into a little later on in this call. But MIKAEL, the thing I like to do first is unwrap a little bit and go behind the business and talk about the individuals themselves, because at the end of the day, businesses are run by people, and you're at the helm of this wonderful experience called Funnelytics. So before we take a look at that, would you mind sharing a little bit about yourself with the My Future Business audience?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm based here in Toronto, Canada. And yeah, I started a company called Funnelytics really to solve my own kind of problems. Before I ran my software company, Funnelytics, we ran a digital marketing agency. And I've basically been an entrepreneur since university days. It started off with, selling T-shirts and kind of going down that path a little bit. But I wasn't born an entrepreneur. I went to school for engineering, and I just didn't like it at all whatsoever. I kind of grew up in a very traditional, way, middle class. My parents were well off and stuff, and they did very well for themselves. But ultimately, just playing as a kid and doing all of these things, playing hockey and soccer as you do in Canada. And
Yep.
and then eventually I got down this path. And the reason I really started into this world of digital marketing was when I was running this T-shirt business. I say business, it wasn't a business. We had T-shirts and we were selling T-shirts. So it wasn't really a business. But when I was selling these T-shirts, one of the things that happened was we ordered all of these T-shirts and we sold them to our friends and our family, and we sold out of them very, very quickly. It was me and 2 buddies, and we were in university and we had a lot of friends. So we sold out of them very, very quickly. And we thought that this whole, business stuff was pretty easy. So we ended up ordering way too many more, like boxes, literally stacks of T-shirts. And we realized that our friends and family had bought the T-shirts already, and they didn't want any more. So basically we kind of got down this, it kind of brought me down this path of Googling, how do you sell online? And that took me down a massive rabbit hole of like so many different things, different dreams, and like different, sales pages that sell you on making money from a beach. But eventually it kind of brought me towards this fascination around how do you turn a stranger into a customer? How do you get somebody who does not know you at all, doesn't know your product, doesn't know what you do or who you are, and how do you get them to become a customer for your business? And if you can figure out that formula, then really you have a superpower, right? Like there's nothing that can hold you back. You never have to have a job again. At least that's how I thought. So I just kept going down that rabbit hole, and and then lots of other things happened in kind of between. I started a Mandarin language school in London. I moved to the UK, and I don't speak Mandarin. I've never even been to China, but I did that. And then I started a language tech business. And that was my first kind of venture into raising capital from outside people and running a tech company. And then, that kind of failed, and it didn't really, well, it didn't, it failed completely. We weren't able to scale it. And then I started my agency, and we were able to scale that. And so
It's been a bit of a journey, hasn't it? But
it's been a journey, absolutely.
now, thank you so much for sharing. Now, I know that oftentimes failure is the precursor to success, and I want to talk a little bit about that as it affected mindset. But before that, I know that you are so busy and so active all the time. Do you have any time to wind down, and how important is it for you to just step away for a little while and recharge?
Yeah, it's a good question. Yeah, 100%. I am pretty lazy, to be completely honest. I love sitting on the couch and watching Netflix. I love just doing nothing a lot of times, right? And one of the things that I guess I do more than most is I spend a lot of time thinking. I actually very randomly today wrote a blog post or a post on my Facebook feed about like working smart versus working hard. And I strongly live by the concept and the idea of the 80-20 rule. If you understand how that works, basically it states that 20% of your input or your activities will result in 80% of the output, right? Or the result of the outcome. So if you understand that, and that happens throughout life, it's not just business, it's everything, right? So if you understand that concept, that basically means that if you were to, let's just say a theoretical example of there's 100 activities for you to do in order to make $1 million. Well, that means that there's 20 of those activities will result in about $800,000, right? In revenue. So the way most people think, and the way the vast majority of society thinks, is that they'll just kind of pick and choose activities. They don't even list the 100, and they'll just kind of go about it very, at their own pace. And that's why they don't ever see success. The hard workers will list all 100 out and then just like put their heads down and just work super hard until they crush all 100 activities. And then they'll see their success. They'll make their $1 million, right? What I like to do and how I like to think about things is I'd rather spend 80% of my time doing nothing but thinking, but analyzing and saying, okay, well, if these are all my possible activities, like what are the pros and cons of all of them? How will these ones specifically impact my end result of generating revenue? And then I'll go and identify, okay, these are the 20 activities that I think will have the biggest impact, over here, right? And then I'll laser focus on those 20 activities. And then what usually happens is you end up realizing that once you reach a specific milestone or you cross a specific goal, or let's say you make that 800,000, there's new circumstances and new opportunities and new challenges and new things that appear. So to move to that next level afterwards, it's a new list of activities that you have to look at, right? So while the hard workers is busy just crushing these 100 activities, I look at, okay, well, what's the next set of activities? So instead of me doing, a total of 100 activities to make $1 million, I'll do a total of 40 activities to make like $1.6 million, right? In that kind of analogy, if that makes sense. So, I try to wind down as much as possible. I really don't, I work, I come to the office every day around like 8:30 or so. I try to leave, it depends on how busy I am, but I try to leave, around 6 or so, 5, 6, somewhere around there. I have a little girl at home, so I try to shut off as soon as I'm home, and we just spend time at home. And the more I can you stay in a routine, the easier it is to make that happen, right? So I definitely try as much as possible.
I know that that's a very deep question to answer, but absolutely important, because the My Future Business audience, Mikael, beginner entrepreneurs and small to medium-sized businesses who absolutely thrive off of this stuff. They thrive off of not only the products, because the products are just functional, but it's the mindset, it's the people, it's the behavior, it's looking after yourself. Now, given that you talk about family, you talk about winding down, I often think about software as something that, it seems solid, it seems like it's always going to be there. But what is is there some sort of an exit plan for you? What's happening in the business, in the future? How do you see Funnelytics going and growing in the next 12 to 24 months?
Yeah, it's a very good question. So for those who don't know what Funnelytics is, it's a digital marketing tool to help you map out your marketing funnels, to map out your website and your flows and all that stuff, and analyze the data behind it. And it's meant to be very visual. But the reality is software is not easy at all, right? It's very sexy on the front, right? Yeah. If you see a big tech company that's exploded and they're making all this recurring revenue and all this stuff, it sounds super fun, and it sounds like, great. I'd rather do that than sell one-on-one coaching or my time or, blah, blah, blah. But the reality is it's still tech. It's still technology, right? Which means developers, which means problems, which means scaling issues. It means a lot of churn. It means making sure that you build a product that people use and people stick. It means making the right decisions and testing pricing, which is really, really tough to know what is the right pricing strategy and how do you go about that. So from that standpoint, it's not easy at all. But then again, no business is, right? So it doesn't matter if you're selling coaching or if you're selling services or if you're selling courses or you're a brick and mortar store or your local gym. It doesn't really matter. No business is as you scale, as you kind of keep moving up.
Yeah.
The thing though that you look at when you're planning your kind of 12 to 24 months or 3 years even, is you have to have a vivid vision around what does this thing look like? How do I envision this thing to be? And your job as the CEO, as the entrepreneur, is to continue to evolve towards that vision, right? So one of the best analogies or the best ways I can kind of explain it is, when you're a startup or a small business, you have this vision of like, okay, this is what I think my product can be, and this is how I think I can impact the marketplace, and this is the vision that I have for this thing, right?
Yeah.
And then you jump into a speedboat. At the very beginning, it may not be a speedboat; it might be a canoe, and you're like doing all this yourself. You're grinding towards that vision.
Yeah.
If you get funding or if you get customers or you start getting growth, maybe you upgrade to a speedboat then. But regardless, you've got this boat and your goal is to go towards that vision, but there's always going to be obstacles within that path, right? So you may want to go straight up, but you might have to deviate this way. But as long as you know that you're still going towards here, eventually you'll start to find your way back towards here, right?
Yep.
So you may have to say, okay, well, this product or this thing didn't really work, so therefore let me go and tag on this particular other product, right, to see if I can generate some more revenue this way. Or you always have to pivot and make slight adjustments. But the key is understanding, where am I headed, right?
Yeah.
So with Funnelytics, we have a very clear vision as to what this product can be and how it can impact the marketplace. And we're just getting started in terms of that's the one thing with software, is that it doesn't move as quickly as you'd want it to.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're just getting started in terms of our vision, and we see it, we know where it is, but we're still here, and
Yes.
we just have to keep working. So
There's a long path ahead of you, I'm sure. Thank you so very much for sharing that. Now, I'd love to talk about, the end of your days has come forward, and you're laying there and you're thinking, this is what I've done in my life. I wonder, do you think about the legacy that you want to leave behind this world? And if so, what would it be?
yeah, that's a very good question. In fact, this is an exercise that I would recommend everybody do. I'm just going to pull it out here. So
Yep.
I've put together, and I learned this from Sam Ovens, a smart dude, but I call it kind of the alchemy of self and my alchemy. And what this thing encompasses is a few different things, and everybody should do this exercise. So basically, this is my own personal belief system about myself, right? And everything that I think about, and how I look at the world, right? So part of that is understanding that in order to achieve anything in life, you've got to get into a routine. You've got to realize that, like, you've got to manifest it to some degree. As woo as that might sound,
Yep. Yep.
you've got to realize that the only way you can create a legacy is by having that vision and knowing clearly where you're headed. So for example, I have this page here that represents like my core identity, and little images that represent who I am. And it's not so much a vision board as it is.
Yep.
Well, it kind of is to some degree. And then I have kind of another slide here that's like, here's my legacy to date, and like the journey so far. So I have just a few images to explain and remind myself of, this is the journey I've been through, but this is where I kind of want to go. And then the last kind of few pages I have here, a manifesto that basically is, who is Mikael Dia in 50, like at age 50,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So if I'm reading this at age 50, even though I'm 33, I'm reading this and I'm like, okay, hopefully if I know that this is all the things that I want to, like this is my bio at age 50, then I'm thinking about, okay, cool. Like these are the things that I want to accomplish. These are, and then it kind of goes down into like my goals, and then, looking at like affirmations. So every morning I look at this and I read my 2 pages of affirmations. I read this kind of manifesto. Just as I'm having my coffee or something. It's just to wire my brain to realize that this vision that I have, the only thing stopping me from achieving it is myself, right? It's by me not taking action towards that thing. So I do this in order to remind myself of what I try to accomplish.
That's wonderful, because I was wondering if there was a set process in place, and there clearly is. It's almost as if there's like you're forecasting your future by jotting it down and converting that that simple thought into processes that will help you walk that path that you want to ultimately achieve. It's a wonderful thing that you're doing there.
Exactly. It's meant to make you realize, because too many people go through life with blinders on, saying, okay, well, I'm just going to take it day by day. But when you take it day by day and you don't know where you're trying to go, then ultimately you end up going nowhere, right? You end up just going, every day is day by day. Every day is day by day. But like, you're not in your mind moving, and subconsciously, the thing that happens when you put this on paper is subconsciously you're telling your brain that, okay, we've got a destination, right?
Yeah.
So it may take 10 years, it may take 20 years, it may take 30 years, who knows? But as long as it keeps that subconscious moving towards that thing, that's the power of it.
You seem very certain in all your marketing, and it's very clear to me this is part of the reason why that is the case, because you have a roadmap for your life, and it's a wonderful thing that you've shared with the audience. Now, being a human with 2 feet and a heartbeat, we have great days, we have good days, and then we have pretty average days. When you have a disappointing day, how do you deal with it?
Yeah, that's a good question. The thing with the disappointing day is, I guess the biggest question you have to ask yourself is why is it actually disappointing? So for example, like I said, so I really enjoy doing nothing sometimes, right?
Yep.
And like sometimes you'll sit there, like I'll spend an entire like weekend or entire Sunday or whatever it is, literally doing nothing, like sitting on my butt, watching Netflix, watching the Raptors play basketball, like doing nothing. And by the end of the weekend, I'm like, man, I haven't like even stepped outside. Like I've been on doing nothing the whole
Been
time.
a hermit.
Yeah, I've been a hermit for a weekend. And the reality comes down to, okay, am I going to feel bad about that? Am I going to feel disappointed in myself and that I didn't do this? Or do I look at it as I've used those 2 days to recharge, to do so that I can go and hit the ground running on the Monday and just keep going towards my goal, right?
Yeah.
The reality is you're always going to have days where you're tired. You don't feel like rowing that boat. You don't feel like you just want to like not
Drop
do
your
anything.
shoulders. Yeah.
Exactly. And feel like I don't want to go to the gym today. I don't want to do this thing. And like, it's okay. It's okay to have those things as long as you keep in mind where you're going. And like, if you don't keep going, like after you've taken that break, if you don't keep going, then you're just letting yourself down. You're basically saying that everything I've written in this is false. It's basically just a story, and it will never become a reality, right? So as long as you're okay with that, then so that's how I deal with it. Which makes it that I don't really have bad days, because those bad days are actually just me saying, you know what, I don't really freaking feel like doing anything today, so I'm not going to.
I'm dropping the ball today. And you know what? This is such a powerful interview for me and the My Future Business audience, Mikael, because it shows the human side of you. It shows the not so polished side of you. And you know what? That is completely okay. And it's something that I think a lot of marketers and people in general in business don't allow themselves to do enough. And I think that's a lot of what's happening in marketing nowadays, is that humanistic approach to what you do. Now, you talked about forecasting before, and I'd love to shift gears and start focusing on Funnelytics, this wonderful product itself, and how, as the leader of this experience, you are finding this journey, because I know it's been a rapid rise to success and it's only getting better and better. It's an incredible thing to be observing from my perspective. With your forecasting, that's something new that's come along. You've got obviously the marching ants. You've got all these different things going on inside. I actually love the marching ants beside. Such a cool little thing. Yeah. So I'd love to just get a bit of, a bit of feedback on the actual platform itself, so people understand what they can expect to find inside.
Yeah. So the idea with forecasting, and the idea, and again, I'm not sure how familiar the audience is with Funnelytics, but I'm going to speak to you specifically since you know Funnelytics.
That's fine.
So,
and I'll fill in the gaps for everybody else.
There you go. So the idea has always been to create a tool that non-data-driven people or non-analytics people can use to make data-driven decisions, right? To make decisions in terms of how do I move forward. So if I have let's say, I need an eraser, quick group. So if I have
a whiteboard I prepared earlier.
Yeah, exactly. So if I have, a page here, and then I connect it to another page here, and I see that my real data shows me 1,000 people land on this page, and say 10% go over here, and that's 100 people kind of travel this way. I don't know if you can see this.
Yes, that's fine.
If this is what I'm looking at, a lot of times people don't understand, how do I make decisions based off of this data? Like, is this good or is this bad?
Yeah.
Right? So the idea with forecasting was very simple. I would love to be able to sit here and just say, okay, what happens if I change this from 10% to 18%? How does this 1,000 translate across the rest of the funnel? Now, this is a very simple two-step thing, so it's 180, right? It's very basic.
Yeah.
But what happens if I've got more pages? This page goes to potentially 2 different links, and then this goes over here where there's a potential purchase over up here, etc. Right? So now how does this 18% affect the rest of the stuff?
Yeah.
If I now do this calculation, I can now see that, okay, this is where I need to focus. If I can find a way to get this 10% to 18%, I've got something actionable to move towards. So that was the idea with forecasting with Funnelytics, right? Is I want to be able to give you a very simple red light, green light system to decide, what do I need to focus on within this business. Now, we still have a lot of work to do with forecasting to make it better, to make it more intuitive and all of this stuff. It is still a little clunky, I should say, in terms of how do you use it and all of that stuff. So we are working towards making things better. But I've always thought about Funnelytics as like the iPhone of digital marketing. Steve Jobs famously said that the iPhone was designed in a way that a 3-year-old could use it and understand how to use it, right? Super easy. My 3-year-old daughter swipes and she knows how to use it.
Intuitively.
It's intuitive.
Yep.
Right? I'm always thinking about Funnelytics in that kind of mindset. How can we make digital marketing and data intuitive, easy, right? Simple. Like we have a drag and drop canvas. So you drag your shapes and it's intuitive. Oh, this page goes to this page.
Yep.
That's pretty easy. That's straightforward, right? So we're always exactly right. So that's my mindset. And in terms of where do we want to go next, big part of it is integrations. Making sure that we're pulling your Facebook ad data and your Google Analytics and all of your data sources from all the different marketing platforms you're using, so that you can see it in this nice little visual canvas. Making sure that for our core users who are small agencies and the freelancers, people who sell services to clients, making sure that they can easily communicate back to their client through reporting and all of that stuff. So that's kind of where we're headed with the tool. And then eventually, in the future, who knows, there's again a vision of like over here. We're only down here, so
that roadmap.
I'll leave that for the future. I'll tell you about all that stuff in the future. But so that's kind of the thought process behind Funnelytics is, can I simplify this? Can I make it easier for people to become digital marketers, and not only just become digital marketers, but actually like make smart data-driven decisions, as opposed to throwing crap against the wall and hoping that it stays.
Yeah, and because I got on early on in the piece because I could see the potential, and the way that you presented the offer immediately spoke to me. I'm not an agency. I'm a full-time podcaster. That is what I do. But I knew straight away that I wanted to be a part of this because I knew that there was something going to happen with this that was magical. Now, I know that free is not a great business model, and you have to somehow monetize your business. You have a number of different funnels that you're using yourself. So you actually, I guess, eat your own dog food, as it were, so you're using this Funnelytics system, you're tracking your numbers, you show the people the numbers as demonstrations on the screen, and it's just fascinating to watch. Now, you also talk a little bit about the agencies and how they can use Funnelytics. Could you share a little bit about how small agencies can, share this and, help bring on new customers?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, so Funnelytics was originally never intended to be for small agencies. It was intended to be just a marketing tool for anybody, who wants to understand how people are flowing through their website, right? I originally built it to solve my problem in my agency, but I also built it for myself to solve my own problems, analyzing my own funnels and all of that stuff. But what we've come to realize over the last kind of 21 months or however long we've been, I guess we're approaching now, December. So it's almost 2 years now. So in the last kind of 2 years, one thing that we've come to realize is the visual aspect is unlike anything in the marketplace, right? So people typically, in order to sell a client, you're explaining over the phone, like, this is what I'm going to do for you. And your client is like, I have no clue what you're talking about because I'm not a marketer.
Yeah.
So then you send them a proposal that's like pages of like, you're going to get 3 Facebook posts and, you know, all this stuff. And the client's like, I don't really get it. Yeah. What we've come to realize is not the vast majority, about 50 to 60% of our users at Funnelytics are using the tool to show, because it's so visual, they're using the tool to explain to a potential client that this is what I'm going to do for you. And when that client sees a little page icon and a Facebook icon linked to that page, and then that page linking over here, and that's how a lead is generated, there's a light bulb moment that happens in their head, and they now understand. Yep. And once they understand, that puts you in a completely different class of expertise compared to everybody else. Yes. Right? So that's how people are using Funnelytics, is as a sales specific tool, and then a retention tool to kind of show them the numbers and say, hey, this is how we're going to move forward, right? These are your numbers right now. Like, if I tweak this number from 10 to 18%, these are the results that it'll go towards. So that's our next step. That's our next plan of action, is to try and increase that number, right? So that helps you retain your clients because they know what's next. They understand it. They can visually see it, as opposed to basically saying, you know what, we spent $1,000 and we made $300. So here's what we're going to try next, right? The client sitting there and be like, so you're basically telling me that you lost me $700 and I have to hope that you can figure out how to fix it, right? Without you explaining to me at all what that means.
What that means.
Yeah. So like when you show them this and you say like, look, this is how we've established the baseline. Now we're just going to go and tweak this thing, and we're going to go and tweak this thing, and cool. Now you've got something that works really well.
And, and it helps you maintain that relationship longer term. And I suspect that helps retention, because then once you get to that next phase, you're looking to do those optimizations, and they're going to want to spend money. Because I recall you talking about not wanting to leave you because they've built that relationship with you and they trust you, they know you, all those, fundamental marketing psychology aspects.
Absolutely.
Now, with regard to, I'm a brand new user. Let's just use me as a case study. I have no idea what a funnel looks like, and I'm wanting to sell a product X. I'm an affiliate. I know that you have a lot of different templates. You've invested a lot of time in providing these pre-formatted funnels, which was absolutely fantastic. I was wondering if you can talk to that a little bit.
Sure. Yeah. What do you want to know?
Well, I mean, because there seems to be so many different gurus, I guess you'd call them, Tony Robbins funnel and all these other things. And it just blows my mind that you've done all of this work and brought them together in a library of different options for people to use. How did that all come about? Where did that idea come from?
Yeah. So the idea was very simple. I mean, people don't just like you don't like to start a Word document with a blank page. Nobody likes to sit there and say, well, what's the best funnel for my course or for my membership site? Or, I'm a coach and I'm trying to get people to my event. Like, how do I do that? Right.
Yeah.
And when you start from a blank canvas, that's intimidating unless you're pretty good at marketing and you understand the psychology of funnels and the underlying foundation of it. It's hard to kind of say, well, this is the strategy you go and use. So the idea was, how can we give people a way for them to start, but not in just some generic templates where it's like, well, this thing and this thing, is specific to stuff that they're familiar with, right? Yeah. So what we did is we went across, around the internet and looked at all of the people and the things that people are familiar with. And we looked at various ads and stuff and said, okay, like I just saw a Tony Robbins ad promoting or ClickFunnels ad promoting their funnel hacking live event, right? So, okay, let's click on that ad and let's take a screenshot of it. Let's click on that ad. Let's see where it leads.
Yep.
Okay, let's take a screenshot of that. Let's click on the next step and let's see where that leads. Let's take a screenshot of that. Let's map it out so that if anyone's looking to sell and get people to an event, they can come into Funnelytics and say, hey, I'm looking to get people to an event. What's the best funnel for me? Boom. Here's an example, not that we made up, but like of somebody that you know,
yep,
that you can go and model around, right? So that was the idea. It was very much just to how can we, and then from my purposes or from my end was also like, how can I also increase the value of each of my customers by giving them additional value, right? So they get access to this tool. That's really great. But what else can I do in order to monetize them and make sure that they get something awesome, but that they're willing to pay for? So those were kind of the two kind of driving forces behind it.
Yeah, thank you. I remember buying it as an upsell, and you've obviously got it all happening here. I took advantage of absolutely everything. Now, the first thing that I had come to mind is that if I'm not a WordPress user or a WordPress-based user, can I use it? Can I install it? And how does Funnelytics get installed?
Yeah, very good question. Yeah, you can use it. It's just a simple script, right? So like the mapping canvas to draw these diagrams, it's just that's a simple like diagramming tool, just like any your Lucid Charts or your Draw.io or whatever PowerPoint presentation if you want to have something that crappy. But that's the diagramming side. And in order to display the numbers on Funnelytics, all it is a simple tracking script, just like a Google Analytics script or a Facebook script. So it'll install across any pages, any website, right? So if you want to install it on ClickFunnels or you want to install it on Kartra or WordPress or Shopify or whatever, you just need to take that piece of code and say like, I'm putting it on the, in the body text of all of my pages.
Yep.
And Funnelytics will do the rest.
Yep.
There are little nuances to tracking more advanced things like actions and video views, etc. And that's something that we're constantly working harder and harder towards simplifying and making it easier again for that 3-year-old type of mindset, right?
Yep. Now that I've installed it on Thrivecart and other places like that, and I've even been lucky enough to work out how to do it in Google Tag Manager if you want to reduce the load even more on your website base. Which this idea of code bloat is omnipresent for a lot of people because they don't know when to stop. They keep adding stuff. So having that option is a fantastic thing. Now. The most important part of all of this call, and I'm so thankful for you spending the last, almost coming up to an hour with me, Mikael. It's been so valuable. Is where are they going to find this wonderful product?
Oh, that's easy. Funnelytics.io. Just head over to funnelytics.io and you can sign up for a free account for our mapping tool and then play around with the mapping tool. And if you want the analytics stuff and all of that good stuff, that's where the paid accounts come in. But go to funnelytics.io.
Fantastic. Look, everybody's on the show today. I know that this has been a golden call, something that I've been looking forward to myself. And this is the reason why, because I knew I'd have a real conversation with a wonderful individual. Mikael, thank you so very much for spending some time with me on the My Future Business show today.
My pleasure. Cheers.
Thanks for joining us today. If you enjoyed the call, then make sure to subscribe, leave a comment, share us with your friends, and book your spot on the show at myfuturebusiness.com/interviews. And if you're looking for solutions that will help grow your business, then visit myfuturebusiness.com/shop.